Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. We are back again with another impact-making guest, and we're going to find out just why in a few short moments. But first, let's take a quick minute to introduce him to the show. Now, my guest today is someone who helps business owners to solve their branding and positioning problems so they can create new opportunities, expand their reach, and be recognized as a leader in their field, which helps them to win more customers. He's an Amazon best-selling author who, with his business partner Lorraine, has run many workshops on internet marketing, web development, creative problem solving and creativity practices, and product development and networking for more than a decade. He has designed business development programs for the University of Salford and University of Central Lancashire, and worked with a number of European universities in Ireland and on the European mainland on new product development, helping a number of businesses each win up to €1 million of funding to develop new products. Now think about that for a moment. Additionally, he was on the original board of the Cumbria Development Agency in the UK, and more recently was a member of the working group that put together the Cumbria Business Partnership, on which he represented the Federation of Small Businesses. And he's here today, ladies and gentlemen, to talk to us about some of the problems, some of the obstacles, some of the misconceptions, pitfalls, and fears surrounding the individuals and organizations he has a passion around helping the most. So please welcome him to the show, branding and positioning expert, David Birchall. Dave, are you there?
I'm here, Stuart. Hello, and hello, everybody.
Dave, it's so good to have you on the show all the way from the UK. How are you doing over there?
Oh, the weather's been hammering us for a little bit, but otherwise we're okay. We're learning to swim.
Unfortunately, that's one of the joys of living in the UK. I know that myself. Absolutely. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the weather. We're here to help the people who you have the greatest passion around helping, and to answer some of their most pressing questions. So with that said then, Dave, can you briefly just describe who is your perfect prospect, Dave? Who is it that you help?
We help a fairly wide range of businesses, which are either small or medium-sized businesses, and they could be focusing on hospitality and catering, engineering, manufacturing, research, accountancy, retailers, bus and taxi, real estate, thermal imaging, music, and not-for-profit organizations. Quite a wide range, as you can see. Even non-government organizations, when we're asked, we still do the odd thing for them. So if they want to get noticed and they want to improve what they're doing and win customers, then that's where we dive in with them.
Okay, that sounds great. And that's a pretty broad range of organizations and individuals that you work with. So when you think about those people and those organizations, Dave, what are 2 to 3 common obstacles that prevent them from creating new opportunities and expanding their reach and being able to be recognized as a leader in their field?
I suppose you could say that one of the biggest problems that small, medium-sized businesses have is it's something I call falling behind the pack. They're that busy producing the profits or trying to produce the profits in the business and worrying about the everyday things that go on. And they tend to fall behind what's happening with the web and on the web, and how best to use that in their own businesses. And they seem to just go from one day to another without taking that into consideration. So that's probably about the main thing. Then they look at marketing as a cost, as opposed to an investment in their business. They wouldn't think twice about buying a new machine, a computer or a laptop or a vehicle to get around in. But when it comes to marketing, they tend to think, well, that's a cost. Everything else is an asset. And it's the wrong way to look at things. Even Bill Gates said, if I only had $2 left, I'd spend $1 on marketing. And of course, the third obstacle that you asked for is failing to understand their range of customers and the potential that's there for them to help them, because they don't drill down enough. They don't specialize in the micro setup of their range of customers.
I'd just like to drill a little bit deeper into that third obstacle of people failing to understand their range of customers. That sounds really interesting. Could you just dig a little bit deeper and maybe just share an example of what you've come across in your time while you're out there helping these people, Dave?
Yes, sure. Let's go back to the list that I gave you at the beginning and just pick one out. For example, engineering, manufacturing, something like that. Engineering and manufacturing covers such a wide area. And you may have engineers, like perhaps I might have been in the past a chartered engineer or something like that, a time-served engineer. And so I think I know quite a bit about engineering. I get into the marketing side of things and I go out and try and help them. But one of the things that small businesses, medium-sized businesses don't particularly do well enough is to take the sector that they're dealing in and break it down into segments. And what I'm talking about there is that you may be looking at a manufacturer of widgets, but the more you drill down into that, there could be about 30 or 40 different widgets, all doing different jobs for different sectors. So if you can drill down and choose various segments of that sector, you can then specialize in them. And you get to know more about them, about their issues, their problems, the benefits that they can bring, and so on. And that's what I mean by drilling down. Does that answer your question?
It does, and it answers it in quite a lot of detail, and I'm sure that the listeners are going to find some value in that answer that you just provided there, Dave. So thanks for that. Now, keeping in the same kind of vein, moving on to the next question, let's talk a little bit about some of the misconceptions that you come across while you're out there helping the people that you work with. Can you name, let's say, 2 or 3 popular misconceptions that they may have about branding and positioning themselves so that they can win more customers?
Marketing, as I said earlier, is something that's costly and ineffective as far as the vast majority are concerned, mainly because they've had somebody doing it for them who didn't know what they were doing. And without slighting the industry in any shape or form, that does happen quite a bit, as you probably know yourself. But very often they'll take on the role themselves, and marketing to the vast majority of small firms is sort of advertising, and yet it's a lot wider than that. And they don't realize that they can compete with big companies if they actually create a brand and credibility for that brand. And that doesn't matter whether you're making widgets or whether you're selling ice cream or whether you're providing services, you're in the service sector. So that's one of the big issues that you have to break down the door on with them. And then the other one that I'd probably go for is that everybody thinks that it's critical to get onto page 1 of Google or any of the other search engines, but Google being the prime one because that's where all most searches are done. Getting on page 1 of Google might bring you some visitors, but it doesn't convert them. It's what you do when they get onto your website that makes that difference between the visitor becoming a customer. And those are probably the two biggest things. Well, there's three in there, but the two biggest factors, three when you take competing with large companies. Large companies don't compete very well on a local basis. And there you can go to town on them. And too many small businesses don't realize that. They just think they're going to be beaten by the amount of cash that they have, these large organizations, in their wallet. But you don't need a great deal of money to play their game. I hope that answers that.
It does. And you brought up a very interesting point about being on page one of Google, and you positioned it as a misconception. So I'd like to just expand a little bit more on that, because as a local business owner, and I remember I am the voice of the listener, I receive sometimes 10, 15 calls a day from various SEO agencies promising to get me on the first page of Google, and also with a further promise that when I'm on the first page of Google, that my phone will start ringing off the hook. Now, you put something else there on the table which sounded very interesting. So could you just give me or the listeners a different perspective on that? Because that sounded really interesting what you brought up there, Dave.
Page one on Google. I have somebody who's a client who literally doesn't take any emails or anything like that. They phone him off a website, and he gets lots of orders off that website. He's not on page one of Google. The only way you'd get this guy on page one on Google is to type his URL in, his domain name, and then he'd probably come up on page one in Google, because it's a specific domain name. But he still gets business from that website. So you don't have to be on there. People just have to know where to find you. That's the critical thing. And if you look at where we have been in the past with that, everybody seems to focus on SEO, search engine optimization, which is good, and that should be done with your website when it's built and when you're working on it, not as an afterthought. It is still important, but you still have to drive traffic to your website. And the way you do that is to build credibility online and to be where people are looking for what it is that you do. And that could be on Facebook, it could be on YouTube, Pinterest, search engines. But you have to be where they're going to be looking and talking to their friends, because that's how people find you these days. They may look on the web and do a search and might not like what they see in the beginning. So they'll go on to one of these sites and they'll get a hold of their people and say, does anybody know a decent firm that can do X, Y, or Z? And that's what I mean by being where they're looking. So if somebody goes on Facebook and asks the question, then if you're on Facebook, they can be pointed to you. So you have to integrate your marketing with Facebook, Twitter, if you're on that, YouTube, and so on, along with your website. And when people come to your website, they should be welcomed and they should be finding something interesting. You have something like about, these days, anywhere between 5 and 12 seconds to get their interest, or they're off somewhere else. So you have to work out what you're going to do when they land on your page and how you're going to keep their interest. And that might be some interesting video on the page that they land on, or it could be a free offer of something. Those are the sort of things that you've got to combine these days to be able to entertain the visitor.
So when I think about, there's a lot of social interactivity on the web these days, and it's very easy to find out some information about a company or an individual who owns a company by just doing a search on Google. Now, if somebody who's in the market for a divorce lawyer, as an example, if they type in divorce lawyer in London and they get a page full of of results for divorce lawyers. How are they going to determine which one of those divorce lawyers is the one to pick?
It's a good question. One of the things that we try to teach everybody is that you need to create your own credibility on the web, and that's what Google's looking for. And one of the ways that you do that is by literally using the web to assert your authority on that web by having articles and press releases and ultimately chapters in a book or a book that your company has put together that people can see. And the search engines love that. So the more they see that kind of thing, the more important they view you, and the higher you get on that list. And all the others around you become also RANs. They become hand-waving, I'm here too businesses. So those are the sort of things that people need to be looking at doing. And it's not always easy to be able to do it. Just I'm saying write a chapter in a book or get some articles done, but the vast majority of business owners don't understand how to do that. For people like you, me, then okay, it's something that we do as bread and butter, but they need help with that. If you've got those sorts of things, the visitor's eye is drawn to that on the search engine. Then probably what they might do is check with some of their friends to see if they know of you as well. And another thing, you need to be looking local. You mentioned London, a big city. Let's face it, in London, probably half the population, if they're not politicians, they're lawyers. You know?
Say that again.
So you've got probably about 100 pages of lawyers to look at. If you can narrow down your search keywords to your locality, then somebody from Croydon or somewhere like that is going to start looking there, because the last thing they want to do is travel 300 miles to see a solicitor. So it's taking that local aspect and bringing that in as well, along with all your other marketing. And as I mentioned earlier, if you go local and you drill down, then you can beat the big boys.
So when you talk about drilling down, when I think about, let's stick with this example of divorce lawyers in London or Croydon. Let's say Croydon because you drill down to a local level.
Yeah.
How could you drill it down even further? Could you, for example, have content out there, like you mentioned, these articles and blogs, etc., based around your own name or your own company name? Would that drill it down even further?
Oh, indeed. And another thing would be the subject. You may have a divorce that is purely and simply between a married couple. And then you may have a married couple that have got children. You may have a married couple that have got children and other dependents. And so you can use the things on your website and your keywords that are there that demonstrate the range and depth of your services. And then if you've got, let's say, a downloadable PDF, portable document format piece that says, these are the key things that you need to be looking for from us if you've got children, if you've got dependents, and so on. And we can make life easier for you going through this process, if you follow these, and feel free to call us. Yeah.
Right, so that content then sounds really specific and focused on one particular problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, so am I correct in thinking that the more specific the topic, the more likely the business owner is to attract that client because they're actually looking for that specific topic?
Absolutely. Great question. What we should be thinking all the time when we're drilling down, we need to be saying, what is a problem and what is a solution? Now, in divorce, there may be a number of problems there. So you choose one problem and explain one solution. Then look at the next one. Second problem, second solution. And this is the way that you can attract and win the business. And you take a firm of lawyers, let's say there's 5 people in there, 5 partners, then the chances are that those 5 partners have different specialisms. So you could take each partner with their various specialisms and do that drilling down of one problem, one solution for the specialist areas that they cover. And all of a sudden, when your potential customer visits your website, it's very clear to him or her what they know, what they're looking for, and they can see all these one problem, one solution things. And their immediate reaction is, why, these guys know what they're talking about. I'm pretty sure they can help me. So they pick up the phone.
Yeah, but then doesn't that diminish or decrease the amount of people actually being exposed to your company when that topic is so specific? What are the pros and cons of that, of having less people actually finding you for a specific topic as opposed to many people finding you for a generic topic?
There's no reason that you can't have everything there. And your website should cover all of your main aspects, your general practice, the things that you do generally, but also you can then use the specialisms to help people along that road, because you want to stop them wasting time. The last thing they want to do is talk to somebody who deals in conveyancing if they're having a divorce. And it may well say on the website that we do conveyancing, we do divorce, we do family practice, we do this, that, and the other. But you don't have that time when you come to a website. We live in an instant world, so you have to cater for that instancy as best as you can, whilst at the same time creating this overall picture that you've got. And that's relatively easy enough to do with your navigation on your websites and all the other stuff that you would normally put there. Does that answer the question?
That's excellent advice, Dave. So thanks for sharing that. Now, you just spoke quite extensively about publishing specific types of content online on specific topics. Now, when you think about the individuals that you help and the organizations you work with, and those wanting to pursue their goals of creating new opportunities and expanding their reach so that they can be recognized as leaders in their fields, please share a couple of pitfalls that they should be aware of or even mindful of if they're trying to do this on their own.
By and large, the biggest pitfall, I suppose, when you're looking at a small business is that they think that they know the solution to their problem and that they can do it themselves. And if you've ever built a website, you know that it can be quite technical at times. For all you may have a simple WordPress website that has this type of theme and so on. If you want to achieve certain things, there are probably some bits of coding that you've got to do and all those sorts of things. And then you've got to have the material in a line that works. The big pitfall is that they think they can do that themselves, and they never seem to get it done because they're always getting ready to do it. The other pitfall that they're frightened of is this automatic assumption that if you go to a third party, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. And very often it can be quite the opposite. It can literally save you money and save you time and get you up and running and winning business. And because of the way that the market has run in the past, right across the world, everybody goes into the office in the morning and they're bothered on the telephone or in email by things that come through saying we can get you on page 1 and we can win you all these customers and all the rest of it. And so there's this advertising fatigue that's there. And they just don't believe these sorts of things. So I think the worst thing that happens is that they get shoved into a place where they can't make their mind up, so they do nothing.
Okay, Dave. That's some really good answers there. Can we just quickly move on to the next question? Where I just want to address some of the most common fears that prevent the people that you work with from expanding their reach and being recognized as leaders in their field so that they can attract more customers. Can you share 2 or 3 of those common fears that you come across on a regular basis?
Yes, I suppose the biggest fear is that they don't understand what it is that is needed. And they don't get, when they're talking to people about any of their fears, there's no sort of reasonable explanation. They automatically assume that the cost will be too high. And because of all the marketing that's gone in the past that you get slammed with through email and telephone calls that you don't want, they've sort of lost trust in people. And it's those sorts of fears that are actually blocking them from taking some advice or seeking some advice and implementing something that could take their business to the next level.
Okay, is there any other fears that you come across, Dave?
I suppose there's the fear that it won't work for them. They want some guarantees that what you're saying can be done, will be done, and will work. And we all go through life in business knowing that you can't always have guarantees. But with some people or some products, you can actually guarantee that this will happen. For example, an Amazon bestseller, you create a book and you can guarantee, if you know how to do it, that you're going to come up with an Amazon bestseller. And so the book then becomes a prime piece of real estate on their website, and they can tell people about it. And all of a sudden, there they are with bags of street cred. Does that help?
It does. So what about those people who just, they've lost trust because they've been burnt in the past? What do you have to say to those entrepreneurs?
It's very difficult, isn't it? When you've had so many people that have had their fingers burnt. The easiest way around that is to explain exactly what it is you're going to do and to agree terms and say, right, now this is guaranteed and this is guaranteed and this should follow. So we'll guarantee that we'll get you in a multi-chapter book for your chapter that we'll create, and that will guarantee that will become an Amazon bestseller and so on. And that should then lead, if we work with you and you work with us, to winning business and so on and so on. So you set out the program for them of all the things that they should be looking to do and will benefit them. And 9 times out of 10, we find that they see the benefit and start to go with it. You're then down to budgets. So, as I said before, they automatically assume it's going to cost an arm and a leg, and they find out that as opposed to the arm and a leg, it might be a fingernail.
Why would they want to actually create new opportunities? I mean, it sounds like an obvious question. Why would somebody want to create new opportunities and expand their reach and be recognized as a leader in their field? And even why would they want to even attract new customers? So could you just discuss some of those reasons for us, please, Dave?
There's some good questions there, Stuart. Well, first of all, if you don't want to attract new customers, then you're pretty well standing still. And we all know that in this day and age, if you stand still for too long, you freeze, you die.
Definitely. So
you have to do things that keep your business running, because sooner or later, if you're not winning new customers, sooner or later somebody is going to come along and do it cheaper, faster than you do, and so you've got to
not necessarily do a better job than you.
Absolutely. But then, if they fall for the cheaper, faster job and go with that client, you've lost a customer,
and you're doing them a disservice at the same time.
Absolutely. Right. That's an excellent point, and so you have to be moving forward with that.
Whenever I ask this question, it just sounds so obvious. I mean, why would somebody want to benefit from creating new opportunities? Why would they want to expand their reach? Why would they want to be recognized as a leader in their field?
Well, there are a number of things there. If you look for those new opportunities and you get yourself recognized as a leader in your field, you can start to find bigger fish in the sea. And the fact that you're an expert in your field means that very often you can charge bigger prices for what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that in itself creates more profit and allows you to invest in your business and have a better living. The fact about moving forward and growing your business can also mean that at the end of your business life, you have an asset to sell. Whereas if you're not moving forward, if you're not growing, if you're not creating your street credibility and winning new business that are prepared to pay more for what it is that you do, for the quality of it, then you're reducing your pension.
That's an interesting point, especially the one about positioning yourself as a leader in your field. Now, does that mean that I have to go out there and start calling myself an expert?
No. Let me put this to you. If I was to turn around to you and say, Stuart, I'm a brilliant web designer and I'm brilliant at doing strategy for small businesses, and I've helped hundreds of companies over the last 10, 15 years, 20 years maybe. So I think you should pick me. The other side of the coin would be that somebody at CNN or on any of the online newspapers, magazines or whatever, actually turns around and quotes you as being the expert. Now, which is stronger? Somebody saying that Dave Birchall is an expert or Dave Birchall saying it?
I think somebody else says it, isn't it? It's like a recommendation from somebody else.
Absolutely. So that's why we should be looking to do that. Creating a system within our businesses that then gets other people telling other people how good we are at what we do.
So that goes back to what you were saying earlier about this SEO stuff, where it's more important not just to be on the first page of Google, but to have all these different types of content out there that's really specific, answering one problem and giving one solution.
Absolutely.
And when people find that, then that kind of makes you look like the expert, right?
That's right. And it's the sort of thing that Google and other search engines love. And so they give your website, your business, greater importance in their eyes than they do somebody else who hasn't done that.
And so if that content is on my website or on like you said, a media platform,
yes,
surely it's more powerful if it's on a media platform than on my own website.
Well, you can have it on both.
Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, that's right. That's right. But if it's on my own website, isn't that like me saying, hey, look at me and this is this content and, here's a problem, here's a solution. And I could do the same thing, but on a third-party website that's well known by everybody as opposed to my little local website.
Well, yes, but then suppose you were to put on your website a page that has recommendations and citations, and you've got a link there to this other website so that people could click that and go to the third-party website and see it, or to have a little excerpt that then says read more, that clinks and then goes to the other website of the third party. So you've got the best of both worlds when you do that, because it's you have a short piece that is somebody else talking, even in writing, and then there's a read more here, click this link, and you go to the full piece that they've said about you.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, you're saying create content publish the content on your own website as well as third-party websites. So they're all like little footprints online that people find when they have a problem and you're providing the solution. And so when they find it, it kind of like makes you look like the expert, and they then see you as the expert as opposed to you calling yourself the expert. Is that right?
That's well summed. That's it in a nutshell.
That makes a lot of sense, because I thought, as a business owner, I thought that I have to go out there and call myself an expert at this, an expert at that. That's what I see everybody else doing out there, and on the first page of Google, everyone's calling themselves an expert. But what you shared with me today is really, really useful. So thanks for that.
Oh, you're welcome, and I hope everybody else picks that up as well. It really does take your business, when you start working like that, it does really take you to another level above the dross that's out there.
So, David, can I ask you a personal question, Dave?
Absolutely.
Are you enjoying this?
Oh, I love talking. Have you noticed?
I have, and I got a feeling that we're just scratching the surface here, right? But this is definitely your passion, right? I can feel that. Am I correct? This is what you really love doing.
There is nothing nicer than getting to grips with a business that's struggling because they can't see their way forward, and helping them work through it and pulling them from where they are now to somewhere better. And I don't mean pulling in a nasty sense, but we always try and work with people that we get them doing as much as they can with the time that's allowed, and we make the rest of it easier so that it doesn't become a burden as it was before. And once you've got that and you get them to that next stage, and you see the look on their face, and that bottle of whiskey or something turns up at the door saying thanks very much, we never would have thought we could have done this, but then it's like winning the FA Cup.
Awesome. So, Dave, look, it's been a great interview so far. We know who you have the greatest passion around helping, these small businesses on a local level, these organizations, the individuals that you've helped over the decades that you've been in business. We've spoken about some of their most common obstacles, the popular misconceptions that they may have bought into, and the harmful pitfalls that they should be aware of should they decide to step out and try and do some of these things what you've given advice on today. You also touched on some of the fears that hold them back, as well as some of the emotional and logical reasons why they would want to achieve their desired goals. So now that we know all that, Dave, let's talk a little bit about your solution. I think you've actually deserved it. You've earned it. You've been the educator and the advocate for your client success. You've earned the right now to speak a little bit about your solution. What is it exactly? Does it have a name? Does it have a brand? And what made you come up with the idea, and what inspired you to help the kinds of people that you work with today? Now, before you start to answer that, I know that was about 3 million questions in one sentence, right? So let me just encapsulate it to you in one short sentence. Tell us a little bit about your backstory and how it links to what you do today.
Okay. We started back with the internet 15 years ago. And over those years, we've learned quite a lot about what's needed and why you need to do things differently. And we started doing that. But, I mean, when you're a builder, Stuart, your house is never finished, is it? Because you're always building somebody else's. And we found the same problem. And so what we've done is we've taken a little bit of time out. And over the last sort of 5 years, we've worked on finding the gaps and plugging them with the things that we actually need to be able to move forward. And that's where we are as a business now. I guess it takes us into another area. The things that sort of inspire me is when you meet in the networks that you and I move in, people who all of a sudden find something from something that somebody like you or me or somebody else has said, and it lights a spark. And then they take that spark and they work on it and they come back with a bare concept. And then you're able to help them move that forward into something that could turn into another Microsoft or whatever further down the road. Those are the things that inspire me. And that's how we got to where we are now, because we like the process of working with people is brilliant. The process of working with people that want to move forward and to get on in life is even more brilliant. And it just makes you want to get up in the morning and dive back in.
So can you just touch a little bit on what your product or your service is and how it helps the people you work with?
There's 2 or 3 names out there for the sort of thing that we do. Some people call it celebrity marketing, some call it authority marketing. We've sort of hatched on a name that we're toying with at the moment, and that's naked marketing. And we came up with that because you can see what's going on. There's nothing hidden. There's no smoke and mirrors. What you see is what you get on the tin. And by that, what I mean is that we would interview people. We would work out what it is that they do, and we get them to think the process through of what they should be drilling down at. And we use this authority marketing, branding, and positioning. The positioning is where you appear on the web and how prominent you are on the web. The branding is what it is that makes you tick and your products or services. And we marry all of that and take that process and come up with all sorts of things for the client that they never thought they could achieve. And that may well be just as simple as doing an interview like this. And then from there, we can take that and put it into a multi-author book where they've got a chapter in a book. That then becomes an Amazon bestseller. You can then take what you've got on this interview and you can turn that into various types of specialized press releases, and then those are syndicated all around the web. And before you know it, Google's thinking, who is this guy? Where's this guy come from? Look at all of this, And that's the concept in a nutshell that then takes them and makes them the perceived expert by the businesses that run the web, the search engines and the news media. And if you can get a quote on Wall Street Select, for example, that you have done something and that somebody else has backed you up in saying that, God, it's worth a lot of money in street cred terms. But small businesses never realize that could be achieved.
Yeah, and it is, from what I've seen in my own experience, I call it the common denominator of all marketing procedures, right? Because you could be the best guy on the planet, or let's be politically correct, the best guy or the best girl. Mm-hmm. You could have the best product, the best service. You could be the best person in town, but if there is no trust and no credibility, which is what you help your clients to build,
absolutely,
then you have nothing. And that is a shame, because I'm sure you see this yourself on a day-to-day basis. There are some amazing entrepreneurs, some amazing companies, but they haven't focused on the positioning and the branding, which creates that credibility, creates that trust.
Absolutely.
Which gives their prospects reasons to choose them. And that's what you've been speaking about today. All of those footprints online. So just reasons so people can choose them, right?
Absolutely. That's the nail on the head, Stuart. I couldn't have put it better myself. Well,
okay, Dave, look, we're running out. I'm sorry to cut you off, but we are running out of time here. So, look, if there is an individual or someone representing an organization, such as an HR director or an event organizer or even an investor or an vendor or any other types of key business decision makers who are listening to this show right now and want to know more. They want to know more about this David, Birchall and Lorraine, this fantastic couple who have been building this business, providing these solutions. They want to know more about getting some help. How would they be able to connect with you, Dave?
The easiest way probably is to go to our website. The prime website is webresourcecentre.co.uk. And you can contact us through the web form, and we'll get straight back in touch with you.
Okay, great, fantastic. I'll make sure that those contact details are included in your show notes. And with that said, do you have any final thoughts before we leave, Dave?
I would just say that if you run a small business, don't believe that you can't do anything. If you get the right advice and the right people to work with you, you can do anything you want, and just start from today in thinking that way.
That was Dave Birchall, branding and positioning expert. Look him up. You're going to be in good hands. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, so I have to rush and say goodbye for now. Take care, and we will talk real soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.